There you go. I like that. Yeah, they're okay.
You smelled it.
So number 2, we're 50% there. Number 2, you pick up the phone because your neighbor came here and their leg grew back, or somebody came here, you know, back in 1962 and their ears became larger. You know, is there some reason you came here? You know, you heard about the miracles that happened at Hippocrates. And you say, well, I can eat raw food. And then you see the nurses and doctors here. And what do they say? No
Fruit.
fruit. Boy, what a bummer that was. Because the only raw food I ever ate by mistake was fruit when I couldn't find candy bars. I never ate a raw food other than a fruit. How about you? And it wasn't a lot of that. So fruits are a big issue. Now, back when we discovered by mistake 37 years ago that fruit fed cancer, we were even questioning what we discovered. But it was so apparent to us that what we knew was true that we stuck to that. So for 37 years we told everyone with cancer, and starting 36 years ago, we figured out it feeds viruses and molds and yeast and fungus and bacteria. And we were lone wolves till about 15 years ago. And slowly but surely, people, scientists would come to us and say, how did you figure that out? And we said, we were lucky, we weren't smart. And now the chorus is at our side. So when I went to the German Cancer Institute a couple of years ago and spoke, and they gave me a standing ovation, they said, how did you know fruit fed cancer? I said, because we were lucky. And they said, well, here's the research. I had the top researcher in the world from Boston College here. We had a love fest here. We assembled 6 incredibly cutting-edge research scientists 3 years ago here. You can see this on our website, by the way, called Food is Medicine Conference. And I brought in this beautiful man from Boston who grew up in South Boston, if you know what that means. He's one of us. He's Irish. And he's really tough. When he says things, I can't believe what he says. He says, chemotherapy kills people. He says it on film. But he wrote the definitive book that doctors should be mandated to read. This shouldn't be an option. He shouldn't be questioned for what he does. He's brilliant. It's called Cancer is a Metabolic Disease. So Thomas Seyfried sat me down and said, Brian, here's why the fruit feeds cancer. Because it's the only sugar that metabolizes like fat in your body. And he said, here's the Warburg work that I triple replicated. And he said, here's the replication of it with modern technology. Interesting stuff. And it does the same for viruses, bacteria, mold, yeast, fungus, etc. Low blood sugar, high blood sugar. Now, here's the tricky part of fruit. Fruit is broken into 3 categories. Here in Florida, we're high on acid fruit. That's whole citrus fruit. We grow beautifully here. Strawberries. And something when I lived in Switzerland that I never knew was an acid fruit called kiwi. How many of you knew that was an acid? It grew on the mountains of Switzerland, the lower part, not in the high part. Then you have subacid. Practically every fruit you've ever eaten fits in this category. So we start with things like apples and papaya, most other berries, grapes, you know.
Pineapple?
Pineapples over here. Pineapples in the acid. Grows in Florida was the biggest producer of pineapples before the Second World War. And then it went offshore because it got too much for the American, you know. Then the one that I tell most of you to stay away from. The only ones we tell are healthy people who are super athletes. These are the sweet fruits, things like bananas, dried fruits. These are the bad ones.
Oh no.
My favorite came out this time of the year, persimmons. How many of you don't like a persimmon? And you know, when I was studying persimmons, you don't like persimmons? That's like amazing. You like wheatgrass?
I've never had a persimmon.
You don't like any of it. That's safer. You never had a persimmon?
No.
Persimmon looks like a tropical fruit. It tastes like a tropical fruit. It's indigenous in this country to Indiana. You'd never in a million years think it was from the Midwest. Yeah, it looks like a tomato. Yeah. You open it up and you suck it out, and it's like jelly, sugar jelly. Who doesn't like that? I don't eat it because if I ate one, I'd eat 2 boxes of it. That was my problem.
Mango would fall in your sweet.
Exactly. Mango fits into that, category too. So now what we do know is when we did the work at the MIT laboratories and Tufts University when we were still in Boston, we found out if you're the healthiest guy in the world or woman in the world, you should never eat more than 15% of your diet by weight, not by imagination, as ripe organic fruit. Now here's the bummer, you can't find ripe fruit. No fruit, including organic fruit, is picked ripe. If you were a fruit grower, you would intentionally never pick it ripe. Why?
Spoils too
It would
fast.
rot. Nobody would buy your fruit. By the time it got to the market, they'd open it up and it'd be mush. Everything would. An orange, when it's really ripe, has how long of a shelf life? Does anyone know? 7 to 14 days. Juices. How many of you know 50% of the orange juice in the world comes from Florida? If you're in China, you may be drinking Florida orange juice. And how many of you know they start picking Florida oranges in October, they ripe in April? So can you imagine what that's doing to your bones, your teeth, your skin, the acidity level? What we do know is high acidity levels encourage what? Premature aging and disease. Every disease. Because you're actually destroying the alkalinity, which helps to protect and support your immune system. Now, when you are fighting a disease, here's how much fruit you should have. Everyone know what that means?
0.
Say it.
Zilch.
Zilch! No fruit. But fruit is growing on a tree and God made it. That's what I used to say. And I used to eat 90 pounds of fruit a day. This was a very easy diet to be on when I became a raw fooder. I was a sugar addict, so I just traded away my white sugar and honey. Oh, honey's not good. I now realize eating a gallon a week isn't healthy. And I mean, my buddy and I would share a gallon a week of honey. That's not a joke. We would take our whole wheat bread, of course, stick our hands in the open mouth jar, and take it out like this and eat it, and then lick our... Why? Because I heard honey was good. I heard honey was good. And Dr. Steer is the guy at Harvard who was a, quote, nutritionist, who got us all to believe that about carbohydrates and fats, monounsaturated poly. He was in the pocket of General Foods as well as the dairy industry and the sugar industry. He worked with the Fajul brothers. You know who the Fajul brothers are? The kingpins. They're the people here in Palm Beach County that run the global cartel we call the sugar dope industry. And he basically said, well, there's a difference between sugars. There's good sugars and bad sugars. But the body doesn't know that. The body doesn't know you've spent a lot of money for holistic organic sugars. It says, here comes sugar, I'm going to feed cancers, viruses, mold, yeast, fungus, bacteria. And this agave syrup's the most egregious of all. Agave syrup, there's no such thing as raw. All the raw food groupies, salesmen, actually tell you how good it is and it's raw. It's bullshit. They have to heat it to 180 degrees, the cacti, to pull the sap out. And it's 90% fruit sugar. None of these fruits have 90% fruit sugar in it. Even a persimmon probably has less than a third of that. And so the reality is, we have to have none of this because fruit is, through the latest research out of Boston College, Thomas Seyfried, what? The only sugar that acts like fat in the body. 1924, Otto Warburg told us, you reduce oxygen by 1/3, you start to grow cancer. Even if you don't have cancer, all of us have cancer cells. Remember what Anna Maria taught you in her class? How many cells can potentially be cancer that grow every day in our body? 1%. 1% of cells I produce in my healthy body every day have a potential to become cancer. As I become sicker, weaker, my immune system goes down, I could possibly be producing 1% of cancer cells a day. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to get cancer if I have a strong enough
Immune system.
But if I have low oxygen, what happens? Do I have a strong immune system?
No.
If I grab you by the neck and you can't breathe, are you strong? Get the picture. Your cell's not a lot different than you. Picture it in a practical way. That was interesting what Brian says. I don't want you to be interested in what I say. I want you to feel what I say. I want you to get this, the picture in your head. Get it. So this is how much fruit. We're not taking it away because you've been a bad girl and boy. Now I know you go into those systems because the first dope pusher you ever met were your mother and father. My loving parents were dope pushers. Every time I was good, they gave me what?
Candy.
And when I was bad, what did they take away from me?
Sugar.
So you have this pattern. Like it or not, I don't care if you're an 80-year-old woman or man. You still have this pattern. Good, sugar, bad. That's developmental. That's what I write about in my book, Sweet Disease. I detail that. I mean, I didn't realize that the secondary problem that I had getting over the bad foods wasn't I was stupid, I was an addict. And who taught me to be an addict were my loving parents. That's why they were addicts, because their parents taught them to be addicts. Do you follow? Now here's the scary part is, Most of your family, any of you come from the aristocracy here, raise your hand. Most of your families would never have eaten processed sugar a century ago. The only people that ate processed sugar were incredibly wealthy people. Kings, queens, princesses, the hierarchy. And you know how much they ate a year? It was like precious metal. They ate a kilo a year. 2.2 pounds a year, the average person. What's ironic is your governments worldwide have subsidized the drug industry called the what industry?
Sugar.
Sugar industry. The poorer you are now, the more sugar you eat. The richer you are because you have education, the less sugar you eat. Now, here are the numbers, pretty scary. The average person in Europe and North America consumes, when they're poor, 160 pounds of sugar a year. 160 pounds of sugar a year. You, because you're a little above the fray, you have an education, a little money in your pocket, 120 pounds. Part of this story. Children in Europe and North America consume double their weight in sugar a year. Young favorite actor is a guy called Downey Jr. You ever see him in Chaplin? I mean, I want you to watch that movie. I'm giving you homework. Chaplin shows this guy's brilliant, but he was a flaming drug addict. He only cleaned up 10 years ago or so. Intelligent interview, not somebody who's just shooting out things to talk. He's just coming out of a drug rehab center 15 years ago. How did you become an addict? And he looked and he cried and he said, my father gave me grass when I was 5 years old. And so when you have nobody around and you're not feeling good because you have the SSSs, social, sensual, and sexual, and you don't feel loved, you're taking dope.
Medicating.
Now, you're smart, so you don't go out and take other dope called alcohol, which is just like melting sugar, by the way. You're an alcoholic because you're a sugar addict. It's like melting white sugar and putting it in water and drinking it. That's what alcohol is. And don't give me you drink organic wine, it's alcohol. I don't care if it's whiskey, organic wine, or beer. It's all alcohol is a chemical. It's a particular chemical. Alcohol is dangerous. If any of you do not know that if you gave enough alcohol to your liver, it rots the liver, does that mean a little alcohol doesn't rot the liver? Just doesn't do it to a point where you